Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is made possible because of the generosity of many, many sponsors. You see them in the program, you will see them on the screens, and you'll hear more about them later in the program. But right now, I want to tell you a little bit about our title sponsor, our Breaking Barriers sponsor for this event. That is none other than the Thiry O'Leary Foundation. They do great work, and rather than me telling you all about the great work, I'd rather instead someone more qualified. And that is our great guest speaker for tonight. He is a renowned businessman. He is a proven and beloved leader, civic leader, but I think he prefers the simple title of citizen. But the reality is he's a great community leader, and I want him to come to the stage and address us this evening. Will you please help me give a warm ALG welcome to our friend, Mr. Kent Thiry.
It's my first time to this event. Denise and I have been a small part of the ALG journey for several years since I met Papa, but it's incredibly wonderful to be here as opposed to just hearing about it after the fact. I find it totally acceptable that a number of you might be wondering in the audience whether or not I belong here. And I'll go back to many years ago when I met Papa for the first time. At that time, my technical title was CEO of a company called DeVita. But as Papa knows, my title within the company was mayor of the DeVita Village. We had 75,000 teammates at our peak. We were in 13 different countries. We had people in every state in America. We were taking care of hundreds of thousands of patients. And we declared ourselves to be a village, even though we were a publicly held New York Stock Exchange company. We're a community first and a company second. Where, yes, just like you have to pay taxes to support a society, in the case of an economy, you have to have some profit in order to fuel growth that benefits all. But the key is, how are the economics used? How is the profit deployed? Who does it go to benefit? Is it benefiting a community? And that's where Papa and I felt a huge amount of sort of being kindred spirits, and hopefully in part substantiates why I'm here. But if you believe in the concept of community, and if you think that community is one of the most powerful things, perhaps the only thing that can save the world and create the world we want for our children and their children, then you must respect all communities, because no community can survive in isolation. And so what the world needs now is more community as opposed to artificial boundaries, and instead focus on that which unites us, as we all know. An example I will use, we had 3,000 clinics across America because I was in a healthcare company. And in South Dakota, there's a number of Indian reservations. It's the Lakota tribe. And when I first went there shortly after becoming mayor of the village, the Lakota were very straightforward with me in a dignified way. They literally said, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but they literally said, you know, white man, you own this clinic, you own these clinics, and we will obey your rules, but there is no relationship here. We are a community unto ourselves, and you are not really welcome visitors. And that was a reasonable point of view, given how the company had conducted itself in a relatively morally sterile way. Responsible, but relatively morally sterile. As the next year went by, and we demonstrated how much we wanted to become a part of the community, how we shared our hopes, our fears, our aspirations, the challenges of improving clinical care in a dialysis clinic on a poor Indian reservation, the challenge of actually improving diabetic care and hypertension care so fewer people from the community would need our service. And after 18 months in, when I was in Minneapolis giving a talk, 3 of the tribal elders drove from the Lakota reservations in South Dakota to Minneapolis in order to present to the DeVita Village there's the star blanket, which is their second most sacred symbol. And they wrote a note, and it was to the DeVita community from the Lakota community, quote, "We are all related." Let's give Lakotas There's another way in which I might claim some belonging here, which is that my ancestors traveled from another country to come to America and to come and pursue the dream of America. Constance Thiry, my great-great-grandfather, came from Belgium in 1857. He left his wife in Belgium in order to go and explore the dream of America. He did go back and get her a couple of years later, just to be safe. And there was a Lutheran pastor called Dames, and together, my great-great-grandfather became the uncle, and the priest was the other sort of official in what then and now is this little town called Thiry, Dames in northern Wisconsin. And they were very prudent about the kind of buildings you need to build back in the 1850s and 60s to create a great society. My great-great-grandfather donated land to create a church, to build a church, no doubt under pressure from Pastor Dames. And then they built a blacksmith shop because you could not hope to survive as a community then without a blacksmith. But the other two essential ingredients to creating a healthy culture in Wisconsin were reflected in buildings 3 and 4. Number 3 was a cheese factory. No community should be without it. And number 4 was a tavern. And Thiry Dames still exists. I mean, it's founded by immigrants, still exists. The current population is something like 37. The church has been repurposed. The cheese factory is closed. And the tavern is still there. So they got their priorities right. One other way in which I might claim some belonging here is that while I was born in America, I didn't choose it. I was not born in Colorado. I chose Colorado. I chose Colorado for a very specific set of reasons tied to the DeVita Village, which is that given our aspiration to be a community first and a company second, so many places across America that's no longer easily made available. But here in Colorado, that was still the case where Republicans, Democrats, academics, people from the not-for-profit world, business leaders, elected officials would still get in a room and work on things together. This was, yeah, amen, brother. It remains true today that it is literally far more likely in Colorado for that kind of disparate group to get together and work on solving common problems, 21st century problems with 21st century innovations. It is still the case that our state is distinctive. It will only stay that way, of course, if we work on it. But that's why I chose to move to Colorado. I chose to move our DeVita Village to Colorado, and that remains the battle and the adventure that we're all associated with, and I feel such a sense of philosophical alignment with the African leadership group. But now, our communities in the United States of America are under pressure in so many ways, so much stress created by our political system, and I choose those words consciously. It is not the people of America that are driving wedges of division. It is the politics of America that are driving wedges of division, and that's what we need to address. Let me just comment a little bit. Our political processes currently drive performative art, not policy. They drive division, not devotion. They drive separation, not solutions. They drive conflict, not care. And they drive alienation, not alignment. That is the current reality that all of us are having to deal with. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Why have we lost that sense of representative democracy, the reality of representative democracy? How did it happen that we're increasingly in a world where American legislatures are not reflective of the American people? Well, it happened because over time, the party insiders have managed the system in ways that have led to the far left and the far right, who deserve their proportionate voting, have disproportionate influence, and the majority in the middle are left without voice and choice. So how did this happen? I'm going to get wonky for about 1 minute. I'll give you a number of numbers which can't possibly be absorbed in the staccato fashion in which I will deliver them, but just to make the point that these aren't just bald-faced assertions without substantiation. So in Colorado, in our wonderful state, 85% of all legislative districts, federal and state, are party-dominated by one party or the other. Therefore, the primary election is the general. For all those legislative seats, the general election literally does not matter. That means that, roughly speaking, 40% of Coloradans in 85% of the districts are permanently disenfranchised from having a meaningful vote on any legislative position in their state. And that's not good for democracy. Even worse, in those 85% that are party-dominated, so the primary is the general, 75% of the time there's only one meaningful, viable candidate. And so what does that lead to? Voters don't show up. 26% turnout in the most recent primaries. mostly highly partisan. That's not a healthy democracy. And so what does that mean? If you actually did the math through all those things, 85% and 40% there, only 13% of Colorado, only 13% of you in this room from Colorado got to cast a meaningful vote for a legislative position last year. The other 87%, you could have just mailed it in because you could have predicted with 100% certainty 6 months ahead of time who all the rest of the winners were. That's not a healthy democracy. And that's why now 47% of Coloradans are independents. 64% of 18 to 34-year-olds in Colorado are independents. 85% of Generation Z says neither party has anything to offer them. So now, all that sounds kind of daunting. The good news is we know the root cause and we can take action. The good news is the American people are way more unified, are way more open to compromise, are way more common sense than these legislatures. And we are running, and just to kind of dramatize the horror of this, a democracy without meaningful voting for a majority of its citizens. You know, the way I think about this is like living without a soul. It's like a body without a healthy vasculature. It's like a fountain without water. It's like a bird that can't fly. Superficially, it looks like it's a democracy. But underneath, for all those legislative positions, it's literally nothing. If we were sitting in a room 100 years ago, someone said, let's design a great democracy, and someone walked in with our current numerical reality, we would say, we're not interested in that. It's not a good democracy. But the good news is that we've made progress, and there's going to be an initiative on the ballot this fall to make more. We're calling it the Open Primaries Initiative. With ALG's help in 2016, we passed semi-open primaries where independents got to vote in either the Democratic or Republican, but couldn't do any mixing and matching over both parties' opposition. In 2018, we passed gerrymandering reform, again, over both major parties' opposition. If anyone tried to take those things away from Colorado voters, there'd be a revolt. But in both cases, both parties were against it because we got in the way of their disproportionate power. The two principles contained in this initiative and coming soon to a ballot near you are first, every American voter should be able to vote for whatever candidate they want in a taxpayer-funded election. Amen. And number two, quite a concept, every elected official should have to earn a majority of votes in order to serve the rest. So the good news is that we've got within our capability the ability to do what Americans have done before in the last 250 years, and that is amend democracy in order to make it a true democracy representing the majority in the middle and with voice and choice. And I believe democracy is worth fighting for. And then because this event has such positive energy, and if no one sends a text to my wife so I get in trouble, so I can be the one to tell her. What I'd like to do is double our contribution from 25,000 to 50,000. Now, wait. There's a catch. There's a catch. And again, let me get home and tell my wife before you tell her. But the catch, for I go from 25 to 50, is that you stand momentarily, and we do a little call and response. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview. Because I'll say and then hopefully you'll repeat. I care about no, this is practice. I care about democracy. We the people will rise again. It is our country. It is for our kids. Damn it. All right. So would you please stand? And at least 75% of you have to stand, or we don't get the extra money. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I care about democracy. We the people will rise again. It is our country. It's for our kids. Damn it. Okay, thank you. So Denise and I will happily double our contribution to this beautiful group. And then I'd like to close because there have been other times that, and this will take about 2 minutes, there's other times where our country has been at risk, where the stresses and strains in our society have been extreme, And if you don't mind going with some of the old language, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, the Gettysburg Address. Whew. And I'll try to get this right. fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the notion that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We are here to dedicate a portion of the field to those who gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we do this. But in a broader sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave souls, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or detract. What we say here will be little noted nor long remembered, but the world must never forget what they did here. Rather, it is for us, here, the living, to be dedicated to the unfinished work that they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. Rather, it is for us, here, the living, to be dedicated to the great task before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we hereby resolve that these men shall not have died in vain, and that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government by the people, for the people, and of the people shall not perish from the earth. Amen, Abraham. Go America. Thank you.